Think Realty Nation, it's Abhi Golhar. Welcome to the Think Realty podcast. You know, there are days when I want to talk about financing. There are other days when I want to talk about how do you become a better investor, acquisition strategy, wealth building tactics. Today, we're talking with Steve Werner from DAWGS. And what's interesting about that conversation, well, you know what? I'm going to have you wait to find out what's going to be super awesome and interesting about that conversation. So, talking with Steve Werner from DAWGS, and then following that, we're going to talk about the U.S. Home Price Index rising at the slowest pace since 2012, and whether or not you feel, ladies and gentlemen, part of Think Realty Nation, whether that's an issue or not. You know, we've had this like looming recession in the conversation for the last 12 to 18 months every year. And it just seems to get prolonged and kind of like we're going to keep kicking the can down the road. So maybe Steve has some thoughts about this as well. That being said, we cannot do this podcast without the support of my amazing sponsors. Today's podcast is brought to you by Realty Real Estate Investments, your premier source for cash flow investment property. Check them out at www.turnkeyrealestateinvestments.com. Let's go ahead and get into the show. I want to make this super snazzy, super awesome for you. Think Realty Nation. Steve, welcome to the show. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm doing great. How are you guys?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. Give us a little intro on who you are and what is DAWGS?
Sure. I'm Steve Werner. I'm an entrepreneur from Chicago. I'm a partner in a niche security business, DAWGS. That's an acronym that stands for Door and Window Guard Systems. And what we do is we protect vacant and abandoned buildings. We come in, we board up properties, but we board them up with steel as opposed to wood. So they are impenetrable and very well protective, so our clients can sleep at night, not worried about break-ins.
So really, your tagline should be, "Who let the dogs in?" Right? Should be the one-liner. You know, send me your address. I'm gonna have like a little T-shirt made. "Who let the dogs in?" And then we'll like do a little rap for you. So
I appreciate that.
Tell me more. Are you nationwide? Are you primarily local?
No, we are nationwide. Started in Chicago, and over the last few years have built a pretty large presence on the East Coast, in the Mid-Atlantic, and it's for sure our fastest area of growth right now. But we are in 14 cities, actually, mostly east of the Mississippi.
Nice. Starting in Chicago. I love Chicago. It's a really cool little market. I used to spend a lot of time in Chicago as well. But from a physical asset protection perspective, right? This isn't like entity selection or some Nevada LLC I'm talking about making sure your home, your investment property is protected. Why should I take that seriously as a real estate investor, Steve?
Well, great question, and I think I have some logical answers, that's for sure. You know, number one, time is money, right? So if you are a rehabber and you are on a time schedule, a budget schedule, etc., every day that you finish on time or even earlier is more money in your pocket. You don't have to worry about break-ins, vandalism. Our product creates amazing efficiencies because we're locking it down. It's almost like Fort Knox. People are actually able to keep their tools in a property, which might take a half hour in the morning and a half hour at night to get in and take out. So from an efficiency standpoint, when your property is well protected, you're on time, on budget, and that means dollars in your pocket.
I'm with you on that. I mean, and that's a major concern, especially if you're a new investor. What do I have to do differently? How do I turn this? How do I secure the asset and then kind of keep that ball rolling? What are some mistakes that you're finding investors make when it comes to securing that property?
They're way too worried about pennies instead of dollars, right? They're going to try to cheat their way through it, either through board ups or maybe even, as you mentioned, dogs of some sort. And inevitably, if they are in a tougher neighborhood where you would see us most often, those properties, crime and vandalism is a full-time business. It's not a hobby.
Yeah.
in the cities that we're operating in.
Good
So
point.
yeah, it is. So the mistake that they make is they, they get kind of a little cheapish at the beginning, and then ultimately they wind up having a break-in of some sorts, and they're frantically calling us to come out and resecure the property, and then they're going through insurance claims or trying to figure out who to blame, etc. And ultimately, that just winds up costing them 5 times as much as it would have cost to just do it right the first go around.
So you have a specific kind of mechanical door system that you use as well. I was on your site and I was kind of trickling through some of the offerings. Tell me about that, because obviously there are a couple of ways to enter the house, right? There are a couple of ways to let the dogs in. Number one is to kick in a door, and number two is your windows, unless it's like Christmas time, in which case Santa Claus is coming down your freaking chimney, and it's not Christmas yet. So what's this mechanical door thing? How does it work?
Yeah, our mechanical doors are the best feature that we have, that's for sure. So it's a solid slab of steel that temporarily replaces the permanent wooden door that you'd normally have, affixes to the property very much like our equipment. It's compression. It affixes. It's compressed from the inside, and when you walk up, it's got a mechanical code, a 4-digit code built into it. No keys, no lock boxes. So you're not worried about who the last person that had a key was, passing keys around to different tradesmen, etc. No chance of a lost key or a missing lockbox, which is a major headache for an investor or some sort of tradesman that shows up and can't get in the property. So literally, it's a 4-digit code that you just walk up, you roll it in the tumbler, you push the door, and it pops open. Creates tremendous efficiencies along the way also.
So why a code? So you don't think anybody's going to be there and start off like 0000, 0001, 0002. You don't see that often, I'm assuming.
I think I did the math one time, and it's like 1 out of 316 million. So I think if you stood there for 30 years, you'd probably eventually get the combo right.
Right. In which case, you're at least like sitting there and protecting the house. In which case, the property is yours. Why the PIN code thing instead of actual keys?
We listened to the voice of our customer, actually, and we had many customers that were very, very frustrated with lock boxes being stolen that they left on the property, or keys missing. One tradesman forgot to leave it in the lockbox for another tradesman who was supposed to meet a guy at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the other guy couldn't get there till 6, and they couldn't coordinate. Yep. So the next day the trades show up and nobody's got a key. Right? And on the onset, we actually invented a door with a electrical locking mechanism built into it. And what we noticed, especially in the colder cities like Chicago, they froze in the wintertime. And we learned that from watching our competitor too, who had electronic doors and in the wintertime was in the full-time service call business, unfreezing doors. So we have some really savvy engineers. One of our partners is an engineer, and he invented this door, and the community loved it. The customer base just loved it. So
nice.
That's why. Yep.
So obviously, the security of the asset, especially if I'm in a rougher neighborhood, if I'm in the C-class neighborhood, maybe even like a B-, a rougher B neighborhood. Obviously, if I have a vacant property during my turns or during renovation, this is clearly important to me. What is my all-in investment? How much am I spending if I have like a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with the average number of windows on the first floor, average number of windows on the second floor, and the home is like, I don't know, 1,200 square feet with a driveway and attached garage?
I would say that on a typical 1,200 square foot house like you described, typical, I'm like giving you the average of all the cities combined, would be like 16 to 18 windows and a front door and a back door, would be about $1,400 to $1,600 for 3 months. That's with installation and removal. And then if you went month to month after that because you needed an extra, some extra time to finish a product, it would be $350 a month. is my guess. I don't have I'm ballparking it, but
Okay.
it's super economical. For us, it's a headache. We consider it a headache solution, right? You want to sleep soundly for $1,500 a month. Here's your solution.
Right. And I mean,
I'm sorry, $1,500 for 3 months.
yeah,
With
1,500 for three, and then roughly a couple $100 a month after. I mean, it makes sense, right? Like none of this. The way that I think about my single family rental business, if it gives me a headache, like I need to fix it. I want zero headaches in my life, and that's why I work with great property managers, security agencies like yours to make sure that if I'm doing a turn or if I'm doing some type of renovation, that I can go to sleep at night and get like a full 8 hours of rest, right? Like that's really important to me. Like I don't want to have like sleep apnea because I'm thinking about somebody trudging into my property and then like I have to deal with that entire scenario. So if I want to learn more, of course, what's the best website? How do I get in touch with your team to maybe either get some type of assessment, quote, maybe engage you guys?
Yeah, all you have to do is call us. You could call us. You can go to www.dawgsinc.com, DAWGSINC.com. That's probably the quickest way. If you call us, we will immediately, typically within, I would say 36 hours, have a proposal in your inbox and ready to install the next day if we're all good on both sides.
Awesome. If there's one gold nugget, we got another 30 seconds, 45 seconds here. If there's one gold nugget that you had for a lot of the new real estate investors, right? Like I love talking about pro real estate investing strategies as well, but for the new investors that are just getting into the game and they're thinking, well, geez, I can't really find some good opportunities in a market that's really saturated, so I have to go either to a rougher neighborhood in a primary market to find deals, or I have to go to a secondary market. What advice do you have for those folks in terms of securing their property?
Be smart, for sure. Like don't get cheap. The last thing you want to do is wake up in the middle of the night to an alarm call on your phone in a rough neighborhood where you've got to go run at 2 o'clock in the morning to turn off an alarm or hope that the cops got there. I would just say, be smart, build in a line item in your budget for security as you're figuring out the deal, and just understand it's part of the whole equation, and you'll sleep so much better, and you'll create really great efficiencies, I promise, that will have you done on time, and the reward will be at closing when you sell this thing. Because if you try to cheap out, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you're going to have that first nick or dent break in, and you're processing insurance claims and reconfiguring, and if you're borrowing money, you're paying interest. It becomes very expensive to be cheap.
Yeah, I like that. It's very expensive to be cheap. I feel the same way about my shoes, right? Like if I'm going to go and get some crappy shoes, then that I'm going to have to go buy some more in like a week and a half or two. But if I get good, high quality shoes, they can last me a couple of years.
There you have it.
All right.
Smart guy. Yep.
Steve, thanks so much. I appreciate the insights and jumping on with me for a few minutes. Think Realty Nation. If you want to get in touch with DAWGS, do so. Go to www.dawgsinc.com. DAWGSINC.com. Steve, thanks again for your insight. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, and good luck to you guys. Good luck to all the investors out there.
You
have
got
a great
it.
day.
Cheers.
Bye.
The next segment is brought to you by Real Property Management, which is the largest residential property management franchise in North America, managing tens of thousands of properties for individuals, investors, and institutions throughout the country. Learn more at realpropertymgt.com or call 888-806-7088. All right, let's talk about the U.S. Home price index, rising at the slowest pace since 2002. And what's kind of funny about this article, information from Bloomberg, they're referencing the S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller index of property values, which increased 2% a year earlier in July. And, quote, home price gains in 20 U.S. cities decelerated in July for a 16th straight month as values proved proves still too elevated for buyers despite low mortgage rates. The Case-Shiller Index of property values increased 2% from a year earlier, the slowest since August 2012. And nationally, home price gains remain steady, rising roughly at about 3.2%. Now, what's kind of interesting is Philip Murphy, who's the global head of index governance at the S&P Dow Jones, said, quote, year-over-year home prices continue to gain, but at ever more modest rates. Gains remain positive in low single digits in most cities, and other fundamentals indicate renewed housing demand. Well, I mean, duh. My overall thoughts about this is the following. If you're going to buy, and you're going to buy consistently, and you're going to buy right, keep buying. Right? Like, we all wish that we bought more in 2009, 10, 11, right? Those that lose the game right now are not those that... Here's how you're losing the game. Okay, bottom line is if you're buying into the hype and you're not following your rules. You're winning the game if you follow the rules, you stay steady, and you completely eliminate this idea of home price appreciation from a long-term buy and hold perspective altogether. If you're buying and holding an asset, do you really care about appreciation? Not really. I mean, it's like a cherry on top. Everything else matters, though. The business that you're running with that investment property because it's producing income, your buy price, who's operating the deal. So there are other factors that are significantly more important because you're treating it like a business. So keep that in mind. This, though important, it isn't necessarily the end-all be-all. I'm not going to change my buying activity because somebody thinks that the amount of home price appreciation is decreasing. Guess what? It's still appreciating, right? Think Realty Nation, you got questions, get in touch. Go to thinkrealty.com. If you want to listen to the other episodes of this amazing podcast, or, quite frankly, just want to see me talk for a little while longer, that's not a problem. Go to thinkrealty.com/podcast or hit me up anywhere online at Abhi Golhar. My favorite's Instagram. All right. This podcast was brought to you by my good friends at Narada Real Estate Investments, which is your premier source for cash flow investment property. Check them out. Visit www.turnkeyrealestateinvestments.com. And Think Realty Nation, that's a wrap. That's the show. Again, you know how to get in touch. Until next time, happy investing.